Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video without any interruptions, and then I'll go back and talk about things that are going on, a better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Andy Williams with the Phoenix Police Department Public Affairs Bureau. The information, audio, video, and pictures you're about to see are intended to provide details as we currently understand them of an officer-involved shooting that occurred on January 6, 2022. This video may contain strong language as well as graphic images which could be disturbing to some people. Viewer discretion is advised. This incident occurred in the area of 17th Avenue and Van Buren Street when a convenience store employee called 911. The employee reported a number of customers told him about a man outside with a gun who was threatening to rob the store. The man was later identified as 32-year-old Gary Sherrod. Here's the audio from the 911 call, which was placed at 11:28 p.m.
Phoenix 911, where's your emergency?
It's on 17 West Van Buren.
17 West Van Buren. Is this a business?
Yes,
Okay, what's going on?
there's a guy with a gun outside around the corner talking about he's going to rob the place. And I've had a couple customers come up to me saying that I don't know if he approached my customers or my customers walked by and he's just, talking to himself out loud about it. But they said that he's flashed the gun and he's talking about robbing
And
the place.
he has a gun in his hand?
Probably hidden, like in his waistband or something.
Okay, did you see it?
I have not seen this individual, no.
Okay. So did they see the
They
gun?
said he's around the corner. They said they did see a gun, yes. Two separate customers.
Two officers arrived on scene about 3 minutes later at 11:31 p.m. They contacted Sherrod seated outside the store. Sherrod stood up and officers noticed he had a gun in his hand. The two officers gave multiple commands for Sherrod to drop the gun, which he ignored. Sherrod held the gun with his left hand, moving it around in different directions. Two officers were on scene at the time of the shooting. Both body cameras were activated. The views are obstructed at times, including at the time of the shooting. Body-worn cameras are used by all officers assigned to patrol and several specialty units. Per policy, they are worn at mid-torso level and capture the view of the line of sight from that perspective. It's important to note that the camera lens is fixed and does not capture everything seen or experienced by the officer. When activated, both audio and video turn on. The body-worn camera has a buffer of video without audio for 30 seconds prior to the activation. This feature is designed to capture incidents that happen suddenly, where an officer doesn't immediately activate their camera. The Phoenix Police Department does not currently use in-car camera systems. The officer who fired told investigators Sherrod pointed the weapon in his direction, which resulted in the officer-involved shooting. Other officers arrived immediately after the shooting and helped take Sherrod into custody. The time from when officers contacted Sherrod to the officer-involved shooting was just over 1 minute. Here's the body-worn camera video from the officer who fired his duty weapon.
Hey, drop the gun, dude! Drop the gun, dude! Drop it, dude! Drop the gun! Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun, dude! Get out of the way! Get out of the way!
Drop the gun! Drop it!
Drop the gun, dude!
Drop it! Take that gun, son! Drop the gun!
513, John, we're gonna need more units.
Drop the gun!
Yeah.
Drop the gun! Drop it! Drop the gun! What the fuck?
Here's the body-worn camera video from the second officer.
Hey, let me see your hands. Get your hands out of your pocket. Sit down. Have a seat. Drop the gun. Drop the gun. Drop it. Drop the gun. Drop the gun. Drop the gun. 15 shot, one at gunpoint. Drop the gun. You move that gun, you're gonna get shot.
Get out of the way! Get out of the way!
Drop the gun. Drop it.
Drop the gun, dude!
Drop it. You raise that gun, you're done. Drop the gun. Drop the gun. You got him? Yeah. I'm gonna go to cover. Drop the gun. Drop it. Drop the gun! 515, John, 998.
After the shooting, officers could see Sherrod no longer had the gun. It was on the ground, out of his reach. They moved in to detain him and provide medical aid until the Phoenix Fire Department arrived. Sherrod was transported to a local hospital to receive treatment for the gunshot wound. Sherrod is expected to survive his injuries and upon release from the hospital will be booked into jail. The handgun used by Sherrod was recovered on scene and determined to be a pellet gun. The officer involved in this shooting has been with the department for 3 years and is assigned to the Central City Precinct. This incident is the subject of both an internal and a criminal investigation, which will be reviewed by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Conclusions about whether the actions of the officers are consistent with department policy and the law will not be made until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete.
This video was intended to inform and educate the public about a critical incident in our community. You can learn about the Phoenix Police Department's transparency policy on our website.
All right, let's get into it. So this is an example of a good briefing, explaining to the community what has happened, and some of it, some of their prior videos that I've watched, some of the stuff kind of blurs together, and it's hard to remember exactly, but when he gets to the part where he talks about the body camera, it almost sounds verbatim to the LAPD videos. So I kind of wonder if they took some of the script out of the LAPD videos and started using it, because I can't recall vividly whether or not they've said these exact same kind of words, but I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure, but it does sound very similar to the LAPD videos. But yeah, like, this is a pretty good example of how a presentation should go. Definitely, way better than the Minneapolis news release incident. So police get a call, or dispatch gets a call from a store owner. It's obviously at a gas station, and the person working in the store, or it could be the store owner, I don't know what, but the person has heard from two separate customers that there's a guy outside with a gun, and he's been making some type of remarks about robbing the business. Dispatch has the officers en route, but we don't get to hear the radio call. I would have to imagine that dispatchers put that in the radio message out to the officers, and that the officers knew they were going to a call involving a person with a gun. If the dispatchers failed to include that information, that would be a serious problem, in my opinion. But I can't 100% say for sure that they were knowingly responding to a call involving a gun. but I would say that most likely they were. And this is a regular failing point with many agencies and officers across this nation. Officers responding to calls involving guns, and all they get out with is their pistol instead of getting something better like their rifle out. That is a mindset problem that is pervasive with so many agencies out there, and it could be, I guess, maybe a culture thing, because when police are going to calls, it's not like every single call requires grabbing a rifle. Even when calls involve someone pulling their gun, their sidearm, out of their holster, it does not always turn into a shooting. Plenty of officers across this country go their entire career and never have to shoot anyone. So that, I think, has a bit of a play into why officers neglect to grab their rifle, because they just don't see the overwhelming need to grab that rifle, and or some agencies may have some goofy policies in place on grabbing a rifle. They may say that under these certain circumstances are the only time that you can grab the rifle. Their field training officer may be of a certain mindset that kind of instills that in them. And the training that some of them get can lack a little bit in the mindset department, I guess. If you know that you are going to a gunfight, then you need to bring a rifle, and you need to bring all your friends with rifles. Rifles will outperform pistols every damn day of the week. The only reason that we carry pistols is because they are more comfortable and convenient. It is a lot more comfortable and convenient to carry a pistol on your side for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours out of the day versus carrying around a rifle on a sling for those same amount of times. After about 4 hours of carrying a rifle, you feel it. A rifle is not comfortable or convenient to carry day in and day out, and it's not something that is totally needed day in and day out. Like I said earlier, it's not like police are getting in the gunfights every single day and it's requiring them to always get out of the car with a rifle. But make no mistake about it, rifles outperform pistols without a doubt. And if you know that you're going to a gunfight, you're going to a call where someone has a gun, and there is a higher chance of you being involved in a gunfight, you want to have a rifle, because a rifle will stop the fight a lot faster than a pistol will. Lots of people have gotten up after being shot with pistol and were able to get back in the fight. There was a famous incident from the 80s that is referenced a lot within the training community. The FBI got into a shootout with some bank robbers in Miami back in the 80s, and the two bank robbers, they were not on any drugs whatsoever. Their autopsy showed they had no drugs in their system, but they were able to be shot multiple times and still get up and move around and do stuff. During the beginning phase of this gunfight, one of them took a gunshot to the head, and it only temporarily knocked him out. He was able to wake up during the gunfight, get out of the car, and then get into the car of an FBI agent to try to make an attempt to escape. His partner, at the very beginning phase of the gunfight, took a round through his side, and that round lodged within his heart area. It was a lethal hit. He was going to, for sure, eventually die from that, but it did not immediately incapacitate him. He stayed in the fight. He took more rounds. He was shot a few more times, and he was able to continue fighting and killed 2 FBI agents and then severely wounded a few others. He took multiple pistol shots into his body, and he even took some shotgun pellets into his body. And when he finally got into the car, after being shot multiple times, still trying to escape with his partner, another FBI agent came up and started blasting a revolver into him and incapacitated them both. But the one who was shot multiple times and was able to do the killing, he did not immediately die right then and there. He was actually still alive after that. And so that is why it's prevalent that rifles are used for ending gunfights. There are a lot less people out there who can get up and walk away after being shot with a rifle. Not saying that everyone can't get up. There have been people who've gotten back up and stayed in the fight after being shot with a rifle. But when you look at that in comparison to the people who've been shot with a pistol, you see a lot less people getting up after being hit with rifle. And of course, this is also why people are ended up getting handcuffed after being shot by the police, because people can get back up after being shot, and it is a whole lot easier. It is a whole lot more difficult for a person to fight when their hands are cuffed behind their back, and people always seem to have trouble understanding why the police will handcuff someone after they've been shot, especially when they're not moving and they appear to be incapacitated, they appear to be dead. And that is one of the reasons why is people can get back up after being shot, and it appears as though they had a very deadly wound. But they failed to get out with rifles. Now, I don't know the makeup of their vehicles. I don't know how they store their rifles in their cars or anything like that, or if they even have rifles in their cars. I would suspect that a city the size of Phoenix and the budget that they probably have, I would imagine that they have rifles for their patrol, but I don't know for sure. And if they do have a rifle, well, when it comes to SUVs, there's a couple different options in how rifles can be stored. One, it can be in the cab of the vehicle and be easily accessible to them right then and there, or it's in the cargo area to the rear of the SUV. When going to something that's involving potential gunplay, if the rifle is contained in the rear cargo area, I think it's a best practice that while you're en route to that, to momentarily stop, pull off the side of the road, get out and get that rifle and charge it and get it ready. Then get back in the vehicle with it, and you can have it in between you and the console, or you can go ahead and put that sling around your neck like a 1-point sling and go the rest of the way to the call with a rifle like that, and in a condition to where once you stop and you get out of that vehicle, you can get that rifle deployed very quickly. If the vehicle is if the rifle is in the cab of the vehicle, of course, you can disengage the locks on the rifle. Again, pulling over to the side of the road and momentarily stopping, disengage the locks on the rifle, get the rifle out of the mount, charge it, and again, with the sling, either have it around your neck like a 1-point and have the barrel and everything between your legs as you drive the rest of the way there, or pin it between you and the console. That way, when you stop and get out, you can more quickly deploy that rifle and get it in play. Those, I think, are the best options in making a fast rifle deployment. Pulling up and then trying to hit the lock disengage button, rumbling, and that also, that's different for agency to agency where they put that lock at or that disengage button. So if you got the smart siren control and it's on one of those keypads, yeah, you can easily hit it. If it's a kind of a button that's kind of hidden off to the side or up under something, then trying to access it and unlock the rifle can take a little bit longer. And then plus, most agencies have a policy in place where there's not a round in the chamber. So now you're going to have to fiddle around with the disengage button, get the rifle out, and then charge that thing, and then get it into play. That's why I say I think it's a way better tactic to just momentarily pull off to the side of the road, get the rifle out, charge it, and get it ready, and then continue back on the road to get to where you're going. And then once you stop and get out, you've got that rifle that is quickly able to be put into play. Neither of them did this. They chose to stick with their pistols only. So we have another person who's here with them. Judging based off their looks and everything and how they are, I'd say these people are probably junkies. They're probably on drugs. I don't think that this is a potential suicide by police kind of incident. It doesn't really look like that. This guy, like I said, based off of looks and what's going on, I'd say they're probably junkies of some sort. And they're hanging out outside a gas station like a lot of junkies do. And people happen to hear him talking about wanting to try to rob the place. And he's probably on something while he's standing there with that gun. Or he could be in the freeze stage of fight, flight, freeze, and he doesn't want to move. He's afraid to move because he doesn't want to get shot. Don't know. I don't know what's going on in his mindset, but those are a couple possibilities. But I'm leaning more towards dude's just a junkie. Both these deputies or these officers appear to get there at the same time. This one right here, I think he's here pretty much first, and he's the first one to start getting out of the vehicle and start talking, because then you can start to see this one pull in and open his door and get out. This guy here decides to hang out behind his door, and this officer here decides to just hang out in the open. This officer here, from this camera perspective, and eventually, I guess, figures out or has an aha moment and decides that he needs to move to better cover, and he asks his partner if he's got cover on him, and then he starts to move to the rear of the vehicle to stack pillars.
Drop the gun! Drop it!
But yeah, he doesn't get fully all the way behind the vehicle. So still got pretty good, decent line of sight here from him to this guy. And this officer over here is still behind the door. Doors do not stop bullets very well. In fact, bullets can go through doors very easily. It's not like the movies where the person can just lean down in the car and then the door soaks up all the bullets and then they're fine. A simple 22 long rifle will go through one of these doors with no problem whatsoever. It'll be a through and through. Bigger calibers, you can even go shoot through one side of the car and it come out the other. I mean, it's very thin material. It's not stopping much. So hiding behind a door is not the best place to take cover behind. The best thing to do is put as much mass in between you and the target, and that's where the concept of stacking pillars comes into play. So you get your A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, and then really on this kind of model you got a D pillar back here in the back. So you've got engine block, all the stuff that's to the front of the vehicle. Bullets got to pass through it, pass through an engine block, go through the firewall, go through the seats, go through the cage, go through these other seats, go through this back panel area and all the objects in there. So when you go to the rear of the vehicle and aim out from behind it, you've got a lot of stuff there to stop bullets. And it's better than if you stand right behind a car door, because that car door, just the tiniest round is going to go through it super easy and potentially hit you. So there could have been some better use of cover there. And of course, like I said, getting out with rifles. You know, they know they're going to a call involving a guy with a gun. You just might as well need to go ahead and get your rifle ready. Once he goes down, they go in, cuff, and start rendering medical aid. And so they have kind of a classic kind of blowout kit, so to speak. You can see the tourniquet right there. That looks like a SAM splint. There's a pressure bandage. Looks like quick clot right there. And this might be some compressed gauze or something in there. And this looks like a candy bar. Yeah, there's other candy bars right there. I highly doubt that came out of the trauma kit right here. So different manufacturers have different contents within their blowout kit or their improved first aid kit. Different names for it. But I think it's important for armed professionals to have medical equipment and have the knowledge on how to utilize that stuff. Let's say this guy's gun was real and that he decided to shoot at one of the officers and shot one of them. Once he's taken care of, that other officer is going to have to tend to the other injured officer. Or, depending on the wound, the officer who has been wounded can start self-care on him. Now, they're right there at their vehicles, so this kind of makes the argument of keeping the stuff in the vehicle kind of a moot point, because they're right there. Usually I will argue and say that it's not a good idea to keep your medical gear in your car, because you're not always going to be by it. But it just so happens in this incident they're right by the car. But I think when it comes to medical gear, there's two distinct ways for medical gear that's combined. First of all, you need to have your first line medical gear, and that is medical gear that you keep on you, that is intended for you and or your partners or family. It can be not something this big. This is something that's super big, and it's unrealistic for you to carry this amount of stuff on you. But you can carry, at bare minimum, a tourniquet. You can get a tourniquet, put it in a tourniquet holder, and put it on your duty belt at bare minimum. You can also get an ankle medical holster and be able to fit a tourniquet, pressure bandage, some compressed gauze, little stuff like that into a medical ankle holster, and carry a decent amount of medical kit on you to deal with gunshot wounds or stab wounds. And it's on you, so that if you're 100 yards away from a vehicle, well, you got medical gear on you right then and there to be able to start using. And that's important, especially when it comes to tourniquets. A femoral hit, you can bleed out within 90 seconds. And if you're 100 feet, 100 yards, 200 yards away from your car, well, you're almost done if you don't have the gear to do it with. And a lot of people will come up with the argument of, oh, well, you can improvise a tourniquet by using a belt. Yeah, sure, you can make an attempt to do it, but it's not going to be that great. It's not going to work very well, especially your duty belt. Your duty belt's not going to be worth shit. Your inner belt, maybe, depending on the construction of it. But again, it's probably not going to do very well. And what are you going to use as a windlass to try and make this thing tighten up? It's almost synonymous with people trying to say that tampons are a good thing to keep in a medical kit. That's baloney. That's stupid as shit. It's 2022. There's enough products on the market out there that you can abandon this idea that you can improvise a tourniquet in the field if you need to. Like, that's just stupid shit. Get a tourniquet, and hopefully you never have to use it. But if you do, then you got a solid piece of medical equipment that's designed to slow or stop the blood flow. Your first line medical gear, as I said, should be stuff that is intended for you, your partners, or your family. Your supplemental medical gear or your second line medical gear can be the big pouch that you keep in the car that has extra stuff in it, like an extra tourniquet, the big bag of quick clot, more pressure bandages, stuff like that. It can supplement the gear that you've kept on you and you've already used on yourself or someone else, or it can be its own standalone first aid kit to use on everyone else. And I think that's an important distinction, because on certain scenarios you don't want to use your first line medical gear on anyone else other than you or your teammate. The scenario could exist where you shoot the bad guy that goes down, cuff him, and then you go to render medical aid to him, and you pull your tourniquet out, you pull your stuff out, and you start using it on this guy. Well, then his brother comes out, and he's pissed that you just shot his brother, and he starts shooting at you all, and one of you all gets shot. Well, if that was your only medical gear, what are you going to do? Are you going to go up to that dude who already has that tourniquet on him and take it off and put it on yourself? I don't think so. So that's why I say your first line medical gear is solely just for you and your teammates. Everyone else can wait for the second line gear to get to them. And then that way, while they're being treated with second line gear, if there's any other injuries to you or the team, you've got your first line gear to immediately deal with that. And for armed citizens, same thing applies for family and stuff like that. Like, your first line gear is for you and your family, no one else. Everyone else gets the secondary gear, the supplemental stuff. The equipment is one part of the equation. The other is the knowledge and how to use it. So you've got to have a good base of medical knowledge on how to use this stuff. I don't advocate utilizing YouTube for all your training, especially when it comes to medical stuff. But yeah, you can watch some YouTube videos on how to properly apply a tourniquet, but that should not be your go-to choice on trying to figure out how to put a tourniquet on someone. What you need to do is get in-person training from a competent instructor. And a lot of agencies and companies have someone who is a CPR instructor, or they have a vendor that they can go to supply this CPR AED first aid instruction. That's good to meet that requirement, I guess you could say, but it really depends on who the instructor is, because these entities that put these classes on, American Heart, Red Cross, for example, anyone can become a CPR AED first aid instructor. You literally just have to go to a class that's like 2 or 3 days long, and you don't have to have any prior medical training or knowledge whatsoever. You could literally be someone who has worked at Walmart all your life, stocking shelves, have no medical knowledge whatsoever, and go take a class from American Heart or American Red Cross and get certified to teach CPR AED first aid classes, and go out and tell people how to do CPR, how to save a life. And you have no prior knowledge of this, and the only thing you've ever done was stock shelves at Walmart. That's kind of scary. In fact, that's super scary. And so I wouldn't just blindly advocate that you just go to a class. Like, you need to have the person who's teaching the class have a good base of medical knowledge themselves. And if you can find someone who was an EMT or something like that, then that would be a good person to get to teach that class. Or if there's someone who was in the military, there's a medic in the military, that would be a good option there. Someone who has that background in medical knowledge and experience to be able to teach these kind of classes, and or just do some specialized training on how to apply a tourniquet. Because I can tell you that the American Red Cross and the American Heart class, although they do have a video presentation on how to apply a tourniquet and what a tourniquet does, there really is no on-hands instruction for the most part on how to do that stuff. And the first aid stuff within those classes, there's a lot of medical stuff in there, and so you'll learn stuff about hyperthermia, hypothermia, diabetic emergencies, that kind of stuff. And then there's also the trauma section, and the trauma section is pretty basic, apply pressure, that kind of stuff. It doesn't really go deep into traumatic care for gunshot wounds, stab wounds, etc. And it would be better if you're getting this class that the person who's doing it has the knowledge on how to address those specific things, or just do a specific workshop on those kind of things there. So medical gear is important. You got to carry it on you, and you got to know how to use it. If you're going to carry a gun for a living, then you need to carry medical gear on you for a living as well. If you're going to have the tools to induce trauma, then you need to have the tools to be able to reduce trauma. You should be able to save a life as easily as you can take a life. That's all I got to say on this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.